Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another first impressions video. However, there's a twist. This is a first impressions bonus video, one of the first on my channel. In today's bonus video, we are taking a look at my Raith carbon fiber 4-wheel drive Vengeance electric longboard. Now I know a lot of my standard subscribers, their heads are exploding watching this video. What is going on? How is he doing a review not on a firearm related product? It is, as we say, firearm freedom. So an e-board does not necessarily fit into that role. I originally had a secondary channel. It was called FF Lifestyle. I have many other hobbies outside of the firearms world. Those include skateboarding, snowboarding, fitness, and electric longboarding. And that channel did okay, but I ultimately realized I was never going to have the time to dedicate to a secondary channel to actually make it grow, and it felt very pointless doing those videos. My goal of the secondary channel was, of course, to spread my other hobbies, because I think it does interest some of you out there that are watching this, but also to bridge the gap between these communities. I think, as always, I try to make the firearms world grow, and I think a really interesting way to do that is to possibly do a review of something like a skateboard or a longboard or an e-board in this case, and just kind of bring those two communities together. But rest assured, standard content on my channel is not changing whatsoever. As I said in the beginning, this is a bonus video. So the standard videos will be had this week as usual, standard firearm reviews. This is just an extra, and I plan on, if it is received well, continuing to do these extra bonus videos every now and again on a product that I find is really cool and want to do my standard review in just kind of a different light. And to keep some of you firearm people here that maybe don't know anything about this, this is an electric longboard that's the fastest in the world. It goes 81 miles an hour. Top speed. So stick around, find out a little bit more. I, of course, love skateboarding, and I've been skateboarding my entire life, and I wanted a way to maybe stand on a skateboard that was electric and could go pretty fast. So I started looking around. I picked up a Meepo Shuffle back in the day. I think it was like the V3S or the V4S or something along those lines. It's like a $400 e-board, goes a max speed of 31 miles an hour, and I absolutely love it. Meepo as a company, we know by now, is maybe not the best, of course. For me, the board worked out really well. I have about 370 miles on my odometer on that board. So I've been riding that a ton for about 3 years. Now, I've been looking to upgrade, and I should say first and foremost, I have no connections with Raith, and that's what I think is interesting from all the e-boarders that might be coming to this video. I was not paid to do this review. I have no connections with anybody in the e-board world. I paid full price for my Raith Vengeance. I weighted my weight, and I have been talking to them behind the scenes just to get more information about the board. I love speed, okay? I love speed on a board. I don't ride motorcycles or anything like that, but I am at home on a board of some type. And with my Meepo, I was consistently looking for more speed. Where I ride, nice open roads in neighborhoods, they're very smooth, they're very wide, and they don't have a ton of turns, but there are a lot of speed runs that I can get behind and do, and I love that very much. So I started to look around at, let's be crazy, what's the fastest board out there? And in looking around, I found a bunch of different options, usually topping out at about 40, maybe 45 miles an hour, and that's cool. But, you know, I wanted to push the envelope. I commend Raith for being willing to put out a longboard on the market that goes a top speed of 81 miles an hour. They actually back their words by a world record that they hold. One of the owners of Raith did hit, I think, 82.3 miles an hour on a Vengeance just like this. So it is very possible to hit those speeds with this board. They wanted to give you the experience of riding a mountain road on your standard neighborhood streets. Now, I don't even have to begin to start going down the road of how dangerous this board is, okay? It is no joke. This is not something that you pick up at Walmart to skitter around on the road a little bit. This is something that has the capability of killing you if you don't know what you are doing. Downhill longboarding is a very specific type of longboarding. One thing you will notice that I think is missed in the e-board community is how they ride. You are seeing things like sliding to stop. This board is capable of sliding. We'll talk about that in a bit. But you're sliding to stop. You're sliding to carve around corners. They're incredibly low on the board. In a very interesting stance that might look a little weird to some people, but the reason you're so low is so that you can take impacts properly and not fall off the board. I now have roughly 70-ish, 75 miles on my Raith Vengeance, and I feel like I have a good enough idea or an understanding to give people out there a standard review. Kind of interested at why people are not more amazed with a board that goes this fast. I mean, just from a feat of engineering and really sheer balls to put something like this out on the market is insane. Yes, liability is there, and I'm amazed that they still decided to do this, but there's so much hatred towards this board in the e-board community right now, specifically on Reddit, on, you know, oh my God, I can't believe somebody would make a board like this. Oh my God, it should be regulated by the government and all of these things. This is where maybe my channel and the e-board world differs in a lot of belief systems. They made this as a downhill longboarding simulator, and that is exactly what this is doing, and you are riding it in that fashion. With the four-wheel drive, we obviously have 4 hub motors on the Raith Vengeance, and you have really, really nice Maverick 88 longboarding wheels. And this gives you an ability to have traditional longboarding wheels. I don't disagree that hitting a small crack or something like that is very much felt with this board with these wheels. But this thing is a rocket. It is an absolute rocket to stand on for speed. What I always do personally is scout the road ahead of time to see if there's any cracks, debris, and usually I'm riding on a consistent circle around areas that I know, especially when I'm pushing it with speed. But that is something to understand, is these are polyurethane wheels. My first complaint about the Raith Vengeance that I have in riding and that I've realized is wheel bite. Now, I am not an engineer, nor do I know how to design a board that goes 80 miles an hour. But what I have noticed from just typical skateboarding experience is you'll notice here that the actual wheel can make contact with this board. Now, I am 5'10", 200 pounds, and I had to, off the recommendations of Raith, switch out the bushings right out the gate. Now, that is just fine, I get it. Usually you will have to do that with a lot of different boards out there. That helped with wheel bite a little bit, but even with the trucks incredibly tight, I noticed that if I tried to take a very wide turn going slow speeds, I almost always got wheel bite. One of those times it threw me off of the board because of that wheel bite. So I'm not entirely sure if there's any way in the future to cut a small sliver out of here. The turning radius on this board, at least in my experience, is not the best, especially compared to other boards on the market. This thing is designed to go straight shot speed, and in that department it does incredibly well. I have hit a max speed on this thing of 43.8 miles an hour. And man, I felt every little bit of that. Now, a lot of, oh my God, you know, he's only going 43 miles an hour. Why did he get a board to go 80? Look, I am never gonna go 80 miles an hour on a skateboard. I just like the ability that this has, that I'm never gonna hit a top speed with this thing. I'm never gonna surpass the speed of the board. But Jesus, going 43.8 on a longboard was crazy. It was an incredible rush and an interesting feeling nonetheless. But that's already surpassing most electric boards on the market as far as top speed goes. I was not getting any wobbles with that. I was not even feeling any crazy vibrations with that board at that speed. So that, I think, is a testament to just how smooth this board is. As far as smooth, when the motors are off and I'm just coasting, it feels almost as if there is zero resistance. I mean, the board just glides perfectly. Now, Raith did recommend to swap out the grip tape in the future, and I definitely would recommend to do that. The grip that comes on it is fine, but some more coarse longboarding grip tape would be 100% necessary in the very near future for me. And I'm also planning on covering the entire deck in grip tape because for me, again, that's just, I'm looking for a little bit more grip. I've noticed that as my foot placement in the rear of the board, my foot is placed upward as it normally would be on downhill longboarding, and I got this real uncomfortable feeling like it's gonna slip off of there with this grip tape. So that is noticeable, and maybe a little bit of a comment for Raith moving forward to just from the get-go give it a little bit more of a harsh grip tape on the Vengeance itself. You have your remote here. Now this is a super cool remote because it is what they call the knuckle duster remote. And it gives you the ability to actually just have it in your hand, almost like brass knuckles, and your throttle is right here. You have your throttle and brake, just like it normally would be on most e-boards, and you have 3 torque setting modes. Now, I would strongly recommend to read the instructions on how this remote works because it does not have your standard LED display on the top. Although that would be nice, I would love to see that in the future just because I like seeing speeds and odometer on there. I get it. Going the speeds that this board can go, I would not expect anybody to be safely looking at this as they're going those speeds. So just something to understand there. But you have just basically 3 to 4 red lights, depending on the mode that you have on, for your battery life here in the middle, and then your torque setting is on the top. For the longest time, I thought the battery life was the torque setting. So for the very first ride, I'm cranking this thing all over the place, thinking I'm adjusting the torque and wondering why it's not getting any more extreme. And in reality, I am just messing with the battery voltage reading on the remote, not the actual voltage for the board itself, but just how it reads again on the remote. Once I figured out how to adjust the torque, I primarily ride it on the highest torque setting, which is the red setting. For me, in my experience with Meepo, you guys might know if you're into e-boarding, Meepo's torque is outrageous. It's just dangerous. They are menaces to society with that torque, and I love it. It is, it's back and forth like crazy as soon as you're trying to start. So that's what I'm used to. And I'll be honest with you, I thought the low-end torque would be a little more extreme on a board that goes 80 miles an hour, but it's different. You got a lot of torque in the beginning. It is basically comparable to Meepo as far as starting torque. That's just my experience. Now, when you get going, that's where it changes. Whereas normally with a Meepo, I'm full gas in it and the torque is there, but it lets off. It's at the top speed. With the Vengeance, you're at 30, 40 miles an hour and you gun this thing and you still have full torque like at the very beginning. It is just asking for more speed. So that is something to be aware of, and it's also something that is somewhat horrifying at those speeds. So just understand what you are getting into. Overall, I really like the remote design, and what it's designed to be used with is the Raith slide gloves that also come with the Vengeance. So you're supposed to be able to put these gloves on and still hold the remote, which you can do really, really well. Now, I really wanted the fat pucks that come with the Raith slide gloves, but unfortunately they were out at the time that the board was sent. So I just got the gloves themselves, and I had to pick up these slide pucks extra. I'll be honest with you guys, I can slide a skateboard, I can slide a snowboard all day long. This longboard, I cannot slide, and I am not doing it right. There's nothing wrong with the board. I am very confident and very comfortable riding a longboard, and carving a longboard and getting up to high speeds on a longboard. But for whatever reason, no matter what I do, I'm gonna put some really embarrassing clips up here of me attempting to slide this freaking board and falling all over the place. I just can't do it. And I think what the difference is on a skateboard, you're primarily sliding from the back foot to do any sort of power slide or anything like that. At least that's how I do it. On a longboard, it is the opposite. All your weight needs to be in your front foot, and there's a very light amount of weight in your back foot, and that's what's allowing you to slide back and forth. That is really uncomfortable for me, and then also you have to be going pretty fast, and you have to be kind of riding the gas as you're going fast and riding the throttle to carve around corners and other things. And I have tried to do that, I just can't. I've gotten it kind of going if I'm going in a straight circle, but the other thing that worries me about sliding this board is, one, it's one ginormous lithium battery wrapped in carbon fiber, but two, I paid like $2,500 in total for this freaking board. I really don't want to go to slide it, fall off, and have this thing ride into a curb, and that be the end of the day. I am just still learning it. So I hope that in a future video, I can talk about sliding a longboard and look like I'm doing it like a pro. But again, I'm not trying to act like somebody I'm not in this video. I don't know how to slide, but I've seen a lot of people on this longboard slide really well. And that's another thing to think about is when you're getting gloves like these, it helps out, but I think the very large slide pucks would have helped me learn a little bit better. These skinny slide pucks definitely leave a little bit to be desired. Unless you know how to slide to stop a longboard, you should never attempt the full speeds that this has. That is exactly why I've stayed in the area of 40 to 50 miles an hour. Those are still well within the speeds that I can stop using the battery, and I am also doing those top speeds in an area that I have a slight incline. And that's really important because if anything fails in the remote or the battery or the brakes, I have tested it and I can come to a complete stop using my arms out to the side as a little bit of a windbreak in order to stop. So that is something to think about. I would never recommend attempting downhill top speeds if you do not know how to slide, because it could absolutely end catastrophically. Raith chose to use the BMS battery, I believe. I don't know too much about longboard batteries, but I did hear some talks on forums on the issue with those batteries is brakes cutting out. I don't know too much about that, as I said, but I've never had that experience with the Raith so far in 70 miles. Now, Raith does say that you should never attempt top speeds on a full battery and rely on braking. This is where it can be an issue with the battery that they have chosen, because essentially you have a little bit of regenerative braking. It'll kick some energy back into the batteries when you brake. If the battery is fully charged, this can obviously cause some issues and you may lose braking. So if you full charge it up, go out to the street and start cranking it to 75, 80 miles an hour and then try to brake and you can't, you're gonna be having a really bad day if you don't know how to slide to stop. I used to ride the Meepo board with no protection. I would ride it with sometimes a top of the head skate helmet, t-shirt, jeans, call it a day. I loved the free feeling of riding around on that board. Now, I was reaching top speeds of about 30, and ironically, right before I got my Raith, I took quite the tumble on my Meepo. Still have a little bit of scarring from it. Not a big deal, but I learned a lot from that fall, because sliding on the pavement at even 20 miles an hour was not fun in a t-shirt and jeans. So I have a family, I care about my life and my safety, so you guys will see in the video, I am now using a full motorcycle riding jacket, and I am using a full face TGS helmet, and I have knee pads underneath my pants as well. These are the Demon Gear knee pads. I'll do a future video on all my safety equipment that I'm wearing, but that has made me feel a lot more confident. Now, it is absolutely worth noting the Pass Pro that I'm wearing in these videos is absolutely not a motorcycle rated helmet. It is a downhill mountain biking helmet, a downhill longboarding helmet. That is what it's designed for. Now, I've seen people take tumbles at 40, 50 miles an hour with this helmet on, and they have been fine. But you guys will see that the name of the game with downhill longboarding is when you fall, you have to be close to the ground. I say have to because if you fall at 60 miles an hour standing up on this board, you are going to have a very bad day. You might not even make it out of that situation. So being close to the ground is a must. You have to be close to this board when you are hitting those top speeds. And that is why when they are thrown off the board, God forbid if they are, they're typically sliding for a long distance. And that's where they get away with having a Pass Pro helmet. They are still maniacs for not having more safety features going those speeds. And of course, if you're sliding into something at those speeds, you're probably not making it out of that one. So I have tried using the Raith Vengeance as a daily commuter like I use my Meepo. And with that, I have a lot of really sharp, tiny corner turns. If you've ever used an e-board as a commuting board, you're taking back streets and weird ways and alleyways and things. Ultimately, I don't use it for that anymore. I was having some issues trying to get around traffic, really tight corner, and I'm obviously not going fast to like speed. And again, I'm getting wheel bite and other things because the turning radius is just too wide, and I was experiencing some safety concerns with that. So I'm still going to use my Meepo as kind of my beater commuter, but riding this around the neighborhood, man, I love it. And you know, I'm still able to carve. A lot of people were griping about the carving feature. I have no issues with carving on this board. It is a blast. Now, carbon fiber handles completely different than any sort of bamboo deck, so that's just something to be aware of. You're going to feel the road a lot more, and if you don't have a smooth road in your area, don't get a carbon fiber deck. It's about as simple as that. Now, I am typically, how I ride my longboard is speed, straight shots. I love the feeling of speed on a longboard, so I'm a lot of the time going straight or a small turn and then straight again on very wide streets that are very smooth. As far as range, the range that I've gotten out of this board so far is almost exactly what is advertised, which is about 21 miles, and for me, that's perfect. I've gotten it to about maybe 40 minutes to an hour of riding. And if you've never ridden for that long of a time on a board, your legs are smoked by the end of that. So I'm not looking for too much more. I could go a very far distance on this board and I'm getting exactly as advertised. At mile 20, so you got about 2 miles left, as soon as you hit 1 bar on the battery, there is a significant decrease in the performance of the board. So that is there, just be aware of that. I'm not sure what would be more preferred, but that is what the case is with my Vengeance. One of the last things that I want to touch on with Raith that I love is their customer service. Every company that I've reached out to or talked to about e-boards, they either don't respond, the communication is atrocious, they are almost all based in China. But when it comes to Raith, I reached out to them on Instagram and I got an immediate response. Crazy information, a lot of feedback. They didn't have to do that. I'm a newbie asking them all this stuff, and probably half the time they're like, what the hell is this guy doing buying an 80-mile-an-hour skateboard? But when it comes down to it, they were super helpful, and that's what I love about their company. When you reach out to them, you're getting an actual English-speaking person that is cool and rides these things and knows what they're talking about. And that alone is awesome, and why I didn't mind spending the extra price. Now, from what I can gather, the components are sourced and made in China for Raith, but then the boards themselves are QC checked in Australia, where Raith is based, and then sent out after the QC process. So keep that in mind. And you know, these cameras really don't do it justice on just what it feels like to be riding at these speeds on these boards, especially the GoPro. And it just, you gotta experience it for yourself. So I hope this video is helpful to some people out there that might be considering the Raith. For me, a regular everyday person that paid full price for this, I'm very, very happy. And if you catch it on a sale, I think $2,500 for this board is still very, very worth it for the capabilities that it has. But you gotta have a lot of experience going fast on a board. Maybe not a lot of experience on an e-board, which I do not have, but you gotta have some experience going fast. I've hit about 50 on a snowboard multiple times, and I understand what it's like at those speeds. And man, it feels very similar to that on the road, but you got a lot of the time a much harder surface than snow. So just be aware of that. If you guys got any other questions about this board, let me know down in the comment section below, and please let me know if you enjoyed this bonus video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.